Welcome to the Jaybe Show on Revolutionary Blackout Network. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. Beautiful, beautiful Sunday to be with you all. Thank you so very much for coming in. Welcome to everybody who's coming in. Nice to see you. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and give a like to the stream. This helps us out very much here on Revolutionary Blackout Network so we can reach more people and encourage and inspire as well. So thank you so very much for that. Also, please consider sharing and subscribing if you would like to, because these stories that we cover are important in our daily lives. If you guys have not already, you guys can join our mailing list at revolutionaryblackout.substack.com so you get email notifications whenever clips are uploaded or whenever we go live, just like this. So you guys have that there too. All right. And if you guys like to get in contact with us, you can get in contact with us at revolutionaryblackout@outlook.com. So thank you so very much to see all of you here. Let's get into the chat to say hello to a few peeps, and then we'll get into our segments for today. So we have Zoya coming in first, says JB is the best of indie media. I wish. You give me way too much credit, but thank you so very much, Zoya. I appreciate it. Terry Connolly says, good afternoon, JB and comrades. Good to see you, Terry. CBC Voter coming in saying happy Sunday at JB. Kime says, JB in the place to be, and he's got what it takes to rock the mic. All right, I want to rock right now. I'm a bass and I came to get down. All right, let's go. All right, let's see if there's anybody on the Rockfin side just to say hello. We're good on Rockfin. And on the Rumble side, let's see if we have anybody here on the Rumble side saying hello. We're good on Rumble. We got a few peeps watching. They're a little bit shy, but that's okay. All right, good to see all of you guys watching regardless. All right, we also have Jace coming in saying happy Sunday, JB. Happy Sunday to you, Jace, as well. You know, Sean coming in saying good morning, JB. Can't wait to see how this turns out. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. This is a story that a lot of people aren't talking about, and we got to get into it. So we're going to be getting into that as well. And so just to let you guys know, today is going to be a great day. And if I seem a little slower today, it's because, look, I got to tell you right now, I just got back from the gym. I am tired. I kicked my own ass today. And then Friday, I had the nerve to do Bulgarian split squats for the first time. I did 3 sets. All that for a dump truck. Anyway, so yeah, I did that. And then today was upper body. So I am exhausted, but I'm here and we got stories to cover. So let's get into that as let's show what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to be doing this here. So we have 2. So later in the show, we are going to be discussing about a general strike that has happened. This is really interesting. This is really fascinating because have you guys heard about the general strike happening in the world lately? If you haven't, you're going to hear about it here. But this happened in India. So we're going to be getting into that very soon later in the show today. And why is Modi looking the way he is? Well, it has a lot to do with him. But first, we're going to be covering a very heavy story. I want to make sure to get the heavy stuff out of the way because I want to end on a brighter note. But this story is heavy, and this one has to do with another death in the Black community. And I want you guys to take the poll by the time I'm done with this story. But I think it's very important that we talk about. This is happening in New York again, this time in the Bronx, found dead in police custody. So we're going to be talking about this right now. I'm going to show you something because this is very important in regards to the story. Today is an anniversary, and I wish it wasn't, but it is. But today is the anniversary of Sandra Bland. It says RIP to Sandra Bland. She was killed on July 13, 2015. Who was killed inside of a Texas jail after a traffic stop by police. They said she self-harmed. So I have to be careful what I say. But she was killed in police custody. This was her, Sandra Bland. And it is tragically poetic that this has happened again, but this time to a teenage girl. A teenage girl. And this is one that, if it doesn't piss you off, I don't know what will. But I am sickened, honestly, by what has been transpiring, especially in recent years. Police brutality, it seems like it continues to keep going up, especially within the Black community. So let's share this. And then we will discuss this story. This was shared actually by attorney Ben Crump. So you know it's serious. Let's get into it.
Sadly, the death of a teenager in NYPD custody. Tonight, her family raising questions about her last 5 hours alive. News 4's Melissa Colorado has more on the information they want the department to release.
What happened to her? A Bronx mother's desperate plea for answers after police confirm 18-year-old Saniyah Cheatham was found unconscious inside a cell at the 41st Precinct early Saturday morning. Cheatham was pronounced dead at nearby Lincoln Hospital. Thomasina Cheatham says her daughter was all smiles at a family cookout in Crotona Park on July 4th, hours before she was arrested.
Oh, she was happy, and I was happy to see her.
The family says after the cookout, Saniyah got into a physical fight with her girlfriend, in which both were arrested. The NYPD has yet to confirm those details, but what police do say is this: around 12:40 a.m., the 18-year-old was found lifeless inside a precinct cell in Longwood. Despite officers performing CPR, it was too late. The NYPD's Force Investigation Division, which investigates cases when a person in police custody dies, is looking into Saniyah's case.
Maybe she said something they didn't like. They roughed her up. They hurt her. I don't believe my daughter committed suicide.
Family says police told them that Saniyah used a sweater to asphyxiate herself.
She did not have on a sweater that day.
The family now calls.
Hold up. Let's go back. Let's go back. They said she asphyxiated herself with a sweater. What did the mother say? Because I trust the mother.
Asphyxiate herself.
She did not have on a sweater that day.
Take the poll. Go ahead, take the poll. Because, like when I talked about a black man that was found hanging from a tree in Albany a couple weeks back, go ahead and take a look at that. I did that segment here on RBN. When I talked about Denoris Richardson, who was a disabled black man that was found hanging from a porch in the South. Right? All these stories of a black person found hanging, sometimes from a tree, sometimes from a porch, this time inside of a jail cell. And the police are like, well, they harmed themselves. I do not believe them as far as I can throw them. I don't believe them at all. They said the same thing about Sandra Bland. Something smells fishy, and I don't trust it. Because any police within this country, whether it be in the NYPD, OPD, LAPD, Chicago PD, whatever it is, the sheriff's departments in many counties in this country, I do not buy it. I don't buy stories from the feds. Because this young lady is no longer here to tell her story. Saniyah is no longer here to tell us what actually happened. Let's continue.
Family now calling on the NYPD to release surveillance footage of inside the precinct and demanding that arresting officers turn in their lapel video.
Oh, she hung herself on the bars. I would like to see that.
At this point, the family of Saniyah Cheatham continued to wait for the results of the medical examiner's autopsy report. Her cause of death still pending. In Longwood, Melissa Colorado, News 4 News.
Now, they got cameras in jails. You mean to tell me that they don't have any type of footage whatsoever about this young lady's whereabouts? You mean to tell me that we're supposed to just take their word for it? See, this is the thing that it is important, especially when it comes to local news, national news and local news. The news media outlets will always take the word of the police before they'll take the word of anybody else. Because there's this appeal to authority, this appeal to their power, saying, well, they must be telling the truth because they're the ones that investigated. Meanwhile, who's investigating them? Who's checking on them? Things do not smell right with this at all, at least to me. And I want to get into this as well. Because this just smells all kind of foul play. So it says Black teen Saniyah Cheatham dies while in NYPD custody. It says NYPD's Force Investigation Division is currently looking into circumstances leading to Saniyah Cheatham's death while being held in custody. So let's get down to this right here. At some point after the cookout, the NYPD arrested Saniyah Cheatham for allegedly being involved in a fight. She was taken to the 41st Police Precinct in the Longwood neighborhood of the Bronx shortly before midnight. Anonymous NYPD officials with knowledge of the case told the New York Times that at about 12:15 a.m., Saniyah harmed herself with the sweater she was wearing while in the cell. Hang on, wait a second. First of all, Now, I know teenagers. I know a lot of Gen Z. You know, one of the weird things I noticed is a lot of Gen Z tend to wear sweaters even when it's hot. I know it's weird, right? Trust me, I got nieces and nephews. But that may not be true about her. First of all, her mother said she wasn't wearing a sweater. 2, she was at a cookout. She was outside. She was wearing a sweater. At a cookout? Outside? Exactly. I can read you through the screen. Here's the thing. You smell that? I smell bullshit. I smell it from a mile away. I don't believe that either. Because if her mother notices that she's not wearing a sweater, and they say, well, she died from asphyxiating herself with a sweater, the mother goes, she wasn't wearing a sweater. Then where'd she get it from? If she had a sweater. Let's continue. An NYPD official told the Times that she had only been in the cell for 2 minutes when she self-harmed herself. Only been in the cell for 2 minutes? For 2 minutes? First of all, who is this anonymous person at the NYPD? Because if they're saying that she was in there for 2 minutes, does it really take that long to do all that and to expire within 2 minutes? As I read, it keeps getting more and more ridiculous. This was an 18-year-old girl. 18. For all intents and purposes, she is pretty much at the prime of health. Prime. And you mean to tell me that she managed to asphyxiate herself? So I'm not going to get too detailed, but to fashion a sweater in such a way where it can asphyxiate herself and then expire within 2 minutes. You mean to tell me you expect me to believe that? Only after being in the cell for 2 minutes, which means after she was processed and booked, by the time she hit the cell, she was like, I'm going to do this now. No. No. This is why Ben Crump is on the case now. Because the same skepticism you have right now is the same skepticism that everybody got. Let's continue in this article. It says, in a statement to CBS, the NYPD said they called for emergency medical services around 12:40 a.m. and attempted CPR while awaiting medical help. So wait, they said at 12:15, Saniyah self-harmed herself with a sweater. So you mean to tell me within 25 minutes, between 12:15 and 12:40, that means 25 minutes passed? And how do you know if she did it at 12:15? If you knew at 12:15, that means that officer should have been in there by 12:16. I mean, I'm just saying. Why did it take them 25 minutes to get inside the cell? Isn't there supposed to be an officer there present within the area? If you knew that she was doing that to herself? If you knew at 12:15 that she did that, then why didn't you tell officers right at that moment so that they could stop her? Put her on a self-harm watch. Boy, I'm telling you, these. Saniyah Cheatham was transferred to Lincoln Hospital where she was pronounced dead. It is unclear if there were any other detainees in the cell, if anyone witnessed the incident, or if Saniyah called for help. Number one, they should have that on record if they have any detainees in that same cell. And if they didn't, if there were other detainees, then somebody should have said something. Says, how could this happen in a precinct? Was anybody watching her? Was she calling out for help? Thomasina asked to interview with the CBS. The NYPD has said that the Force Investigation Division is looking into the circumstances around Saniyah Cheatham's death. Thomasina is hopeful that security cameras in the jail and at the medical examiner's autopsy will give a clearer understanding of what led to her daughter's death. The camera should show exactly what happened. I'm praying that it does. I'm really praying. This is very heartbreaking to me and my family. That was my only princess. I have 4 boys and 1 girl. We're just really heartbroken right now. This is actually from PSL, Party for Socialism and Liberation. They actually put out a tweet talking about Saniyah Cheatham. Kudos to them for putting that out there. Saniyah Cheatham's death and alleged self-harm have shocked many of her close friends and family. They say she enrolled at Bronx Community College and worked so she could save up money to live on her own. Growing up, Saniyah wasn't active in the church, which initially caused her to struggle with her sexuality. When she came out as gay to her older brother, he accepted her with no hesitation. That's what made our bond really close. She knew all of me and I knew all of her. She just got me. Amber Baez, Saniyah Cheatham's friend and former partner, told the Times, everyone who has spoken to her recently knows she's been happy. So when I heard this happen, I called her multiple times to see if it was real, and her phone just kept going straight to voicemail. The alleged details of Saniyah Cheatham's death bear a striking similarity to Sandra Bland, a Black woman who died while in police custody. Bland was arrested during a traffic stop and taken into custody at Waller County Jail in Texas. She was unable to post a $5,000 cash bail, and after 3 days in custody, she allegedly hanged herself in her cell. While Bland's death was officially ruled self-harm, there has long been skepticism of the official narrative. Bland's death while in police custody helped bring more awareness to the hashtag Say Her Name campaign. It says from Freddie Gray to Marvin Scott to Noni Batsey Kosako and Tanisha Chappell, there have been an alarming trend of Black people dying in police custody in the years since Sandra Bland's death. Sadly, Saniyah Cheatham's name is now added to that list. And so this is a trend that we're seeing now. And here's the part that I want people to understand. Because some people may go, well, what does this have to do with class politics? What does this have to do with, liberation? This has everything to do with class politics. Number one, she's from a working class background. Number two, she is a Black girl, a Black American girl who is within this country, who is disproportionately targeted by the state, by police violence. And on top of it, also, this is also a tragedy for the LGBTQ community. So this is a class issue, this is a race issue, and this is an identity issue, all wrapped in one. And it's also a gender issue because she's a female. Here's the problem. Because of this system, because of the agents of this system, we call the police or law enforcement officers, they're able to do things with impunity and then cover it up. Also, while we're at it, I'm just going to say it. You don't think some of these departments don't have any pull with the medical examiners? There are reasons why there are a lot of Black families where they will get a separate independent medical examiner to do an autopsy, an independent autopsy outside of what the city or state administers. Want to know why? Because sometimes we don't even trust the medical examiner. Because they can rule something else just to save the hides of the people they have a relationship with. It's no different than what the DA, right? District attorneys have a relationship with the police. So this is why it is important for things like to end like qualified immunity. Shout out to the Ohio Coalition to End Qualified Immunity. Shout out to Cynthia Nixon and that group that is doing whatever they can in Ohio to end qualified immunity. But why isn't it not being done in New York? Qualified immunity needs to be ended completely. Zorhan Mamdani, where are you on qualified immunity? Do you want to end qualified immunity? Is that a policy that you would like to do? Would you? And even let's say you don't have the power to do it as mayor, could you use your bully pulpit to push for ending qualified immunity among all public officials, including police, including DAs, including judges? Because this shit has to stop. We talk about the genocide against Palestinians, which rightfully so. We need to talk about that. We talk about the genocide against the Native Americans, rightfully so. We also need to talk about the genocide amongst Black people in this country that continues to go on down to this day. And on top of that, the constant genocide against the working class, because our lives are seen as expendable. Expendable by who? By the parasite class. And all this over what? Protection of property, protection of private property, to keep us all in line. Just because she had a fight with her girlfriend. She had a fight with her girlfriend, and somehow she winds up dead. And people wonder, people wonder why. Oh my God, they're saying defund the police. Man, abolish them motherfuckers. I don't care. Abolish them. We need real public safety. This is not public safety. This is public terrorism. This is terrorism with people with badges and guns. That's exactly what that is. It's terrorism. And these are the same people that get trained by the IDF in Israel who are massacring Palestinian people, women, children, babies. And now they're doing the same, and they're doing the same thing to our babies here. 18 years old, that's a baby. And also, I'm gonna keep it a buck. Channels who are on the left, especially white channels, where you at on the story? I don't hear much from you. Where are you at? Especially the legacy left, especially the ones who talk about, oh, well, we need racial justice and we need all these things, to for the working class. Well, here we go. We got another story here. Or is it just not big enough for you? This is on life. a young life that was stolen. 2 weeks ago, just 2 weeks ago, I talked about a man in his 50s, a father that was hanged in Albany. How many people covered that? This is why it is so important for us to cover these stories. This is why RBN exists. Because if we don't tell our stories, who the hell will? And the problem is that when you have a capitalist system that thrives on exploitation and focusing on property and capital over the lives of human beings, you get a Sandra Bland, you get a Freddie Gray, you get a Sensei Reed. How many people talked about Sensei Reed? I did. How many people talked about Dolores Richardson? I did. There's names that I'm forgetting that I talked to multiple people that I've talked about. I literally have to go down my channel just to remind myself of some of the names that I talked about. But how many people are covering that? Because this is also a working class issue, because working class people's lives are expendable to the same people in Manhattan that are on Wall Street. Same city, different borough, but their lives are considered to be more important than Shania's. And I'm sick of it. No life is worth more than the other. None. Nobody's life is worth more than another's. They're all priceless. I don't care if you're a baby in Congo or if you're a doctor in New Mexico. Nobody's life is worth more than the other. And we need a system that embraces that. Capitalism ain't it. And we need a system where we have real public safety. Not whatever the hell this is. We all need to continue to say her name. Saniyah Cheatham. Let people know about this story and maintain your outrage and use it to push for real change. Go ahead and give a like to the stream. Thank you very much to everybody for tuning in for this one. Sorry if I got a little passionate there, but I'm sick and tired of this narrative, this tragedies that keep coming up because it happens over and over and over. Let me go here. Graham says here, and a parole officer on the live, a black man who was on parole was going to expire in a few weeks. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. Thank you very much for that. Sean says there's no surprise a report like this be made of in custody related deaths that happen. This has to not happen no more. Thank you so very much for that. Zoya, also, by the way, Zoya is also one of the co-founders for 10 Demands, which is a great set of demands, 10 Demands for Justice. Zoya says most states allow cops to sexually assault people in custody. Reminds me of the IDF. I can't tell you, and this happens across the board. It's not just female, it's males too. How many males, especially underage males, are stopped by police and they're groped by police officers? Males, boys. Yep. What Camera Rain says, we've been seeing lynchings for years. Same with deportations. This country is smothered in debauchery. Yeah. Hence Teeth says exactly who wears a sweater in July. Miss Harmony says, a sweater in July, please. Like, do they think we're stupid? ALM says, is debauchery the right word in that context? Look, it's twisted and cruel system that we live in. I'll put it that way. Terry says, we live in a police state with cop cities, and every state working class will continue to suffer. Yeah, by the way, they're building more cop cities. You see, Chatter X says, you see, there are people who believe the function of the police is to fight crime. And that's not true. The function of police is the social control and protection of property. Michael Parenti. Yep. Michael Parenti was a real one. I'm glad I read one of his books. And Steve says she had less than 2 minutes. Guard needed to lock the door and walk away. Sela says, it's like Albany black man that was found hung on a tree in the middle of Albany Park area. New York State Governor and Attorney General Letitia James have said nothing about police claims of self-harm. And this also goes to show, thank you very much for this, Sela, but this goes to show that I don't hear anything from the black people who are in power in the New York State or in the city of New York. Because Letitia James is the black attorney general in New York, and she hasn't said shit. This is why we talk about black faces in high places are not going to save us. Thank you very much for that, Sela. Appreciate it. Thank you for this, Roger. He says, qualified immunity is abolished in New York City. Someone needs to tell the mom. Ooh. Okay, thank you for educating me on that. But yes, okay, qualified immunity is abolished. And yes, somebody needs to tell the mom, because a criminal charges need to be filed. And then on top of that, civil charges need to be filed as well. Thank you very much. Dana says, police are stormtroopers with military grade equipment thanks to the 1033 program. Yep. Thank you very much. Kime says, great call out, Jaybe. I haven't even heard this tragic and raging case until you shine light on it. I hate that I'm one of the only people that ever talked about it in independent media. I hate that. I wish that I could say, you know what? Enough people talked about this. I don't need to. I wish I could say that. Thank you very much for the solidarity number 6. Appreciate that. Zoya says, in 2021, the New York City Council passed a bill that limits the application of qualified immunity for NYPD officers. Okay, thank you very much for that, Zoya. Appreciate it. Okay. Sela says, as per Zahan Mamdani, support for any qualified immunity for police department? Yes, he does. Okay. My question, why are you asking for Mayor Adams' response, especially since he was in Florida fundraising? You know what? Absolutely. In fact, thank you very much for correcting me on that. Mayor Adams, where are you at? Because here's the thing. You are literally the mayor and a black man of New York. Where are you at? Because Mayor Adams ain't going to say shit either. But he's another blackface in the high place. MCFC says police. That thumbnail. Wow. Police have been found guilty of being corrupt year after year after year. He's right to defend them crooks. Wow. Yeah, H. Lakil says it looks like Israel. Yep. All right. Roger says DM. Okay, I'll get there in a second. And yeah, Zoya says NYPD has an office in Israel. Can you believe that? The city have an office in Israel, in a city that they do not, in a country that they do not have jurisdiction. Sounds like infiltration to me. Unemployed Scholar says, can the AG be recalled? Raj will be the best person to answer that one, actually. Gold is Heavy says, if you have Trump cash, you ain't down with the working class folk. Trump thrives over lower class misery. All them billionaires do. All of it. They all do, man. But yeah, I agree. Let's go to, hang on, let me go to the Rumble really quick just to check to see if we have any Rumble rants. Okay, we're good on Rumble. And then Rockfin. We're good on Rockfin. Okay. All right, so let me go to this. Let me see. All right, so let me share the screen really quick. All right. All right, so Roger says, here it says, yes, New York City has removed qualified immunity for NYPD officers in cases of excessive force, unreasonable searches, and seizures. This means officers are no longer protected from lawsuits for such misconduct. According to Forbes, New York City was the first major city to ban qualified immunity for police officers, which was previously legal doctrine that protected government agents from lawsuits unless their actions violated clearly established rights. The New York City Council passed legislation in March of 2021 to end qualified immunity for NYPD officers, making it easier to sue the department for misconduct. He says, us who are on the working class left love to romanticize about the heyday of the union, when the unions were at their peak. But what we never talk about is the dark side, the underbelly that made union strength possible, that no one never wants to talk about is that strength and the lobbying power. All of it came through about mob muscle. We have to talk about it, we have to talk about how if it wasn't for the mob, if it wasn't for the Jewish mafia like Murder Incorporated, as well as the Italian mafia, who was all intertwined in the unions, that the working class would have never gotten to where it was. Sure, we talk about how FDR did this and FDR did that for the unions, but understand that this was before RICO, Racketeering, Influence, Corruption, Organization Act. Remember the 70s through Milton Friedman, as well as Supreme Court Justice Lewis Powell, who was picked to be on the Supreme Court by Nixon after writing the infamous Powell Memorandum. That was something, matter of fact, you could cover on your show as you're covering this, was instrumental in cutting back the power of the people, unions, the consumers, and the environment to fight the corporate class through the decisions that help to reinforce the money is speech and corporations are people. This set the foundation and the infrastructure for when Reagan came into office and Jack Welch took over General Electric, while at the same time RICO that Nixon signed into law was not implemented until Reagan. So as the federal government used RICO to trust bust the mob, thus weakening union strength, the corporate infrastructure was ready for Jack Welch's new way of doing business and Reagan's government, turning us away from FDR and embracing the corporate class and the government backing people like Welch up. But yeah, as we talk about, let's bring back the heyday of the union, must have to acknowledge the mob muscle. And while we should treat a new path of cooperative economy, I send you this because we must be honest and tell the truth about our side and not be ashamed to embrace and learn from it. In other words, we need to do a show on it. Now, you can read. Okay. It says, yes, you can sue the NYPD if you believe they violate your rights, such as excessive force, police misconduct, like excessive force, false arrest, discrimination. To do so, you must file a notice of claim within the city within 90 days of the incident. More detailed breakdown says grounds for lawsuit, police misconduct. This includes actions like excessive force, false arrest, discrimination, other violations of your civil rights. This can include violations of your Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable searches and seizures, or your Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination. Here's my question, though. Would the mother be able to sue because of her daughter, because really a wrongful death? Would she be able to sue for wrongful death? Because if the NYPD rules it self-harm, would the judge take it as self-harm? Because the judges will also be more than likely to believe the police. So if somebody can come in and say, well, no, it wasn't self-harm, she was actually murdered, then that, number one, that would be a criminal case, but it also could be a civil case too. I don't know. I just wish this law was stronger. Negligence, it says the NYPD's actions were negligent and caused you harm. You may also have grounds for a lawsuit. It says following no notice of claim. Before you can sue the city or NYPD, you must file a notice of claim with the NYC Comptroller's Office. The deadline must be filed within 90 days of the incident. This notice informs the city of your intention to sue and provides them with an opportunity to investigate and potentially resolve the issue. So you have to put in the date and location of the incident, be specific about when and where the incident occurred, names of officers involved, identify the officers who were involved in the incident, description of what happened, provide a detailed description of the offense which led to your claim, injuries or damages, clearly state any injuries, damages, or other harm you suffered. Lawsuit process, following lawsuit after the notice of claim is filed, and the process of or if the city denies your claim and doesn't respond within a certain time, you proceed with filing a lawsuit in court. It is highly recommended to consult with an experienced attorney specializing in civil rights or police misconduct areas. It says qualified immunity. In the past, officers were often protected from lawsuits due to qualified immunity. However, there have been reforms and legal changes that have made it easier to sue for violations of rights. Gathering evidence such as documentation of injuries, witness statements, and police records is crucial for building a strong case. Roger says, you see, James, after a year after the George Floyd protest, when Cuomo would adjust, did it at state level, what he did instead was he threw it to the county for them to bring the community and the country, in the county and local police together to figure out a way to come around to the table and decide on the best accountability going forward. You don't want to know how our former Democrat county executive has screwed us. However, this was abolishment of qualified immunity was specifically for violating your Fourth Amendment and Eighth Amendment rights, not your First Amendment rights. Can you imagine the lawsuits that Columbia University students would have if it covered First Amendment rights as well? Ooh. They could probably bankrupt the NYPD. Oh boy. Thank you very much for all that, Roger. Appreciate it. Got another super sticker, I think it was. Thank you very much to Marcus Smith for this super sticker. Appreciate it very much. All right. And Zoya says, no, the New York Attorney General cannot be recalled. New York does not have a constitutional provision or state statute that allows for the recall of elected officials, including the Attorney General. That sucks. Zoya says that's not accurate. America has a rich history of worker uprising, forcing change. May Day, also known as International Workers' Day, originating in Chicago in 1886, stemming from the Haymarket Affair. Roger says, Zoya, there is a New York State constitutional provision allowing the governor to remove DAs, though, who are elected. Yeah. So, Gone says, JB, I apologize. You already announced this. If not, please note that Attorney Crump, Tamika Mallory, and Saniyah Cheatham are having a news conference tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Oh, thank you very much for letting me know this. Okay. So, guys, if you guys can, if you guys want to take a look at that, they're going to be having a news conference tomorrow at noon. So that's going to be noon Eastern Standard Time. But thank you very much for that. All right. So let's get into, well, first, before we do that, let's get into the patron shout out, and then we will move on to our next segment. So thank you so much to all the patrons in Patreon. Look, we are a group of socialists and communists here on the left that happen to be Black, that are pushing for not only working class liberation, but also Black liberation as well. And one of the things that we try to do is we try to really provide not just news, but we try to also be an example for our viewers so that we can encourage them to do more in the streets, to take power into their own hands by organizing and building worker solidarity, community, and organizing with their community so that they can really wield power so that we can have a more egalitarian and equitable system. And so we appreciate you allowing us to be able to do this, to come into your mobile devices and into your homes, in order to be able to do this, because ultimately what needs to happen is this system needs to change, and you guys are the vehicles to do it. We have no true savior. You are your own savior, and we do it collectively together. So thank you very much to everybody for becoming patrons on Patreon. We appreciate it very much as well. All right, so let's get into the next one. Now, we're going to lighten the load a little bit. Take a sip of my tea because this one is the more positive news story. All right, let's get into it. Let's show the thumbnail. Let's get into the story. So we're going to be talking about general strike. In India. Against Modi. This is going to be a good one, folks. And I am excited because I think it needs to be said. We need to fight against this system. And people in other countries are also doing the same damn thing. We need to do what we can and fight against the system just like the people in India are. So we're going to take a look at this story here, and we're going to get into it. Yeah. Okay. Pause. Sorry, things get a little heavy here. Okay. All right. So a lot of people haven't covered this as well. This is a story out of India that was brought to me by one of the members of the RBN Orlando chapter. Shout out to you, Sabiha, for this story. A lot of people went on general strike. A lot of people. A lot of people went on general strike. Let's get into it, folks, because this one is going to be huge. So I'm going to share my screen. And we talk about this, and people in India, they said, hold my beer. Let's get into it. All right.
Millions of workers go on strike across India. They say that new government measures discriminate against them in favor of corporations. It's another outpouring of public anger against Prime Minister Narendra Modi's economic policies. So how has the country's economy fared under his decade-long premiership? This is Inside Story.
So this is going to be a powerful display of worker power in another country. And I'm sharing this because what could we do in order to do something similar here? Well, of course, we have to contend with the police and the state and, cracking down on us. But we have the numbers. But let's take a look at this.
Welcome to the program. I'm Adrian Finnegan. Millions of people are on strike across India, shutting down banking, construction and manufacturing, postal services, and disrupting public transport, among other sectors. Trade unions say that they've united to protest against new labor laws and against a long-standing policy of Narendra Modi's government to privatize public services and favor big business over workers. So,
what does that sound like, y'all? What does that sound like? That sounds like the United States cutting public services and handing it over to corporations. Oh, that's American right there. That's an American move. Look, here's the thing. I don't care if, Modi in India is a part of BRICS, right? They're still doing some of the same stuff that America does. And it's for the people at the top. It's not for working class people in India. And so once they start to privatize, we know exactly what happens when they privatize things here. And you already have a lot of people already in poverty in India now. And the middle class or the working class is shrinking. Their money is shrinking severely. And so as we see, of course, people are now saying, you know what? We're stopping things. You can't do this. You cannot operate this country without us. And good on them. They're doing the same thing that Philadelphia did. Let's get into this even more.
why are so many people so angry? And what does this mean for Modi's government and for his economic policies known as Modinomics? We'll put those questions to our guests shortly. But first, Imogen Kimber reports.
Favouring corporations over the needs of workers and farmers. That's what millions of people on strike in India are accusing Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government of doing. The nationwide strike has disrupted large parts of the country.
Today, 11 trade unions came together and called for this strike. The entire economy sector is closed today. There are no buses on the road. There is no public vehicle on the road. All public markets are closed. Even the shops where small transactions take place are closed.
Absolutely.
That's what you call solidarity. That's solidarity. Because here's the thing. No public transit. Shops are closed, right? The postal service is closed. Everybody said, nope, we out. Until you actually reverse this, Modi, we out. We're going to the left, Look, we're out of here. Because until you actually give us materially what we need, what we demand, if we don't get it, you guys hear it. If we don't get it, shut it down, right? Shut it down. Clap it up for people in India. Clap it up. Clap it up for Indians. Because my thing is like, this is what we have to do here. The people are strong. My thing is, and a lot of times we'll give credit to like the French when they do stuff, like they'll take a manure truck and spray the presidential palace with manure and stuff like that, which is, it's nice, right? It's nice. That's cute. But when this happens in the global South, you don't see a lot of people giving that much credit to the people in the global South who do something way bigger than what France does. And the numbers are way bigger. It's ginormous. Look. It's humongous. And so, are we going to take a cue from India? I would certainly hope so. Let's continue on.
The unions have joined together to protest against what they say is an erosion of their members' rights under new labour laws.
The federal government scrapped the existing labour laws and has now come up with this new labour code. This code will take away all rights of the labourers. Laws will exist on paper, but the compulsion to implement the same will not be there.
Unions say the new laws extend working hours, restrict the right to strike, and weaken labour protections. And a new pension system is unfair. They also want their members to have better access to more government jobs. Protesters say a list of demands they previously presented to the government has been ignored, and the policies of the government have benefited only one section of society, the big corporations.
So here's my shout out to Eric of Savvy Sav's her channel. So Eric talked about MCDS, and the thing is like money, corruption, demand, solution, right? He talks about the 11 demands. The key is that they had demands, right? They had demands, and then equally with those demands came consequences. Consequences for not meeting those demands. Okay, here's our demands. There you go. And then Narendra Modi and his government said, oh, what demands? We don't see nothing. And they completely ignored it. And they said, I bet. Let's shut it down. Let's shut it down. And now Modi's looking stupid. Because you decided to favor corporations instead of the people. Here's a little secret. Hold up. Let me do this just for effect, because I want to make sure that people understand what I'm saying. Here's a little secret that I want to tell you guys. Corporations cannot operate without people. They can't do it. It's impossible. This means the same thing for you too. So with that being said, like, if they can't operate without people, all y'all got to do is, but this means solidarity among everybody. This means looking at each other workers in the eye and going, hey, I see you, you see me, all right. You know, and then on top of that, it's like, okay, well, I don't have food. Okay, we got you. Oh, I can't afford my rent. Okay, we got you. I need medical care. Okay, we got you. I need transportation. Okay, we got you. This is when shaking hands and going, look, if you need something, I got you. If I need something, you got me. Oh, no money needs to exchange hands between us. We're depending on each other because we're going to make sure that we fight this system. And that's what it takes. And also, seeing past whatever bigotry that we may harbor towards another group, that also has to go away. Because you can't have solidarity if you have bigotry.
They also blame privatization programs for creating job insecurity.
When Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi entered the parliament for the first time, his slogan was, "I won't let them sell my country." Now they are doing exactly the opposite. As soon as he took charge, he sold Indian railways, then he sold banks, airports, coal. Their only job is to cause loss to the laborers and assist capitalists in earning profits.
Modi's supporters say the Indian economy has expanded by 40%, and the GDP has doubled during a decade of his leadership. But charities and rights groups say inequality has increased, and workers are becoming more marginalized and dissatisfied under so-called Modi-economics.
Oh boy, look at them flags. Look at them flags. Look at them flags fly. Because they're saying, we're not dealing with this capitalism bullshit. We are going against it. Shut it down, baby. Shut it down. Click it off. Wait. What did Kendrick say? Turn the TV off. Turn the TV off. Right?
Imogen Kimber, Al Jazeera for Inside Story.
So this is what has been happening, especially in India. So I want to go to this news article. And the magnitude of this strike is huge. So Indian workers go on day-long nationwide strike against Modi's economic reforms. So here we go. This is out of New Delhi. It says hundreds of thousands of workers. Look, I'm telling you right now, that's an understatement. Hundreds of thousands of workers. It says across India went into a nationwide strike on Wednesday in opposition to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's efforts to privatize state-run companies and other economic reforms, partially disrupting public services and manufacturing. A coalition of 10 major trade unions that represent laborers and several other groups that speak for farmers and rural workers call for the one-day industrial action, dubbing it Bharat Bandh, Hindi for Shut Down India. The strike poses fresh challenges for Modi's efforts to attract foreign companies by erasing labor laws to streamline business operations and boost productivity. Here's the problem. Here's the problem for people in India. If you are slashing labor laws, then that's going to mean that you're going to be exploiting people more, which also gives companies here in the United States an easier time to ship our jobs overseas as well. Because now they're going to be more likely to ship their jobs overseas because, well, hey, we can send our jobs over to India because we can actually exploit them more. This is why worker solidarity across the world is so important, because once they start to be able to exploit somebody else in another place, guess what? They take our jobs and then they move on. They leave. Because they see, oh, well, these people are easier to exploit, so we'll just go over there. No. Worker solidarity has to happen across the board. International worker solidarity, so that they won't be exploited over there, and then we can make our demands here, and they have no choice. I hope this happens in more African countries too. I hope this happens in more South American countries. Look, Argentina, y'all got to do something against Milei. That dude crazy. But that's the idea. We need to have international worker solidarity. Now, it says unions help organize the strikes, say that coal mining operations were halted in several states while some trains came to a grinding halt as protesters blocked the network, and that banks, insurance companies, and supermarkets were disrupted. It says the Associated Press photographer in the eastern city of Kokota saw protesters walking in a rally at a local railway station, some shouting slogans against the government and burning an effigy of Modi. Another, in a financial capital, Mumbai, witnessed bank employees shouting slogans against the privatization of state-run banks. Now, of course, people like, for instance, me and Roger have talked about state-run banks and, public banks and things like that, because ultimately that's what helps, infrastructure and the economy for working people, right? And so now here you got Narendra Modi trying to privatize state-run banks. And you know what happens when you get big banks? Guess what? Overdraft fees happen, more fees happen. They start to drain more out of society because they got to pay their shareholders. They got to remember, they got a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders, meaning they have to make money year over year. And a lot of this money is not staying within the country of India. It could be going to Europe. It could be going to the United States, to billionaires who would never circulate that money anyway. And you got to remember, India is a massive market. India is the most populous country in the world. They're more populous than China. They have more people. They do what, 1.4, 1.5 billion people. India is huge. This is the biggest market. Let's continue on. In New Delhi, protesters carried placards demanding scrapping the labor laws and changing slogans like "Stop selling our railways" and "Don't infringe upon our trade union rights." You can be fired any day from work. Your labor has no value in this country and in this society. Ghost said a lot of migrant laborers and workers move from their villages to work elsewhere, and they are thrown out of jobs arbitrarily. The government never realizes how much their workers have to suffer because of this. Another protester, Maimuna, said that the government should work for their rights of workers and create more formal job opportunities than contractual. Another activist, Rajendra, says activists from the Communist Party of India that is associated with key trade unions accuse the government of snatching the benefits of workers on a pretext of reforms. Now, here's the thing. For anybody that talks about, oh, well, socialists and communists, all they want to do is they just want something for nothing. They don't actually believe in actually working hard. Baby, you got it wrong. We're the ones that are behind the unions. We're the ones that are for worker cooperatives. We're ones that are for workers owning the means of production so that they can work hard and be able to make the most out of what they do. They can get the labor that they put in. That's what we're for. And here you go, right here. It says working hours of laborers and the benefits they use to get the jobs after years of struggle, all those benefits have been given away to the capitalists and industrialists by the government. The government hasn't formally commented on the strike. It usually dismisses assertions made by the unions. The workers demand higher wages, halting the privatization of state-run companies, withdrawing of new labor laws, and filling vacancies in the government sector. The farmers groups also want the government to increase the minimum purchase price for crops such as wheat and rice. Modi's government has opened some sectors of the Indian economy to foreign direct investments and offered billions of dollars in financial incentives to attract local manufacturing. It has also aimed to bridge the budget deficit with a drive to privatize loss-making state-run companies and unveil new labor laws that promise worker higher statutory minimum wages, Social Security, and healthcare. However, the trade unions aren't convinced and want the new laws to be scrapped. The government intends to suppress workers in the name of ease of doing business through labor reforms. Tipan Sen, General Secretary of the Center of Indian Trade Unions, which is aligned with the Communist Party, and a trade union that is part of the group that called for the strike, he said he got reports of protesting workers blocking several national highways and rail routes. Coal mining operations in most states have come to a halt. Services in banking, insurance, manufacturing, and petroleum refineries are impacted too. Let me see. I'm going to try to pronounce this. Soundarajan, a prominent trade union leader in the southern state of Tamil Nadu, said that the police detained around 30,000 protesting workers on Wednesday. Manufacturing activities in several companies have also been hit. So I want to emphasize the size of this protest. Let me see. I want to make sure that I get this right, because the amount of people that actually went on strike is way more. They didn't talk about here in this New York Times the Associated Press article about how big the protest was. Make sure. Make sure I get this right. I could have swore I had it. Yeah. Okay. Let me share this, because this is the magnitude of how many went on strike. It's not in the hundreds of thousands. It's way more. So it says tens of millions of Indian workers joined one-day general strike against Modi's government class war assault. Tens of millions of workers across India joined a one-day general strike on Wednesday to protest the far-right Narendra Modi-led government class war assault. The strikers voiced their opposition to lengthening of the workdays, spread of precarious contract labor jobs, privatization and evisceration of public services, and the legislation that will illegalize most strikes and introduce new impediments to union organization. So that is huge, right? It's in the millions of people that went on strike on Wednesday. Millions. And so I think it is important that people realize, in a country that has about billion and a half. That's a lot of people. It's about 10%, at least 10% of the 10% of the population of India. If 10% of the United States went on strike, that would be over 30 million people. If 10% of the United States went on strike, that'd be 30 million people. We're talking somewhere north of 250 million people that went on strike. That's about 2/3 of the population of this country. It is that big. So you can imagine the amount of pressure they put just in one day. This is why it's so important that we start to build worker solidarity with each other. And whatever thoughts we have against why this country's so bad, like we blame different groups, we have to realize that the people who are the ones who are the real blame are the ones that wear like $12,000 suits and sit in boardrooms. Those are the ones who are our real enemies. Do not let these people tell you who your enemy is. Take a page out of the book of people in India. Realize that we need to see ourselves in each other. And when it comes to actually fighting against the system, that's what needs to happen. Now, Narendra Modi is, very close ideologically with somebody like Trump. Never mind the fact that he's in BRICS, doesn't matter. He's very aligned closely to somebody like Trump. And so it is important that we fight against, in our country, both parties, and fight against these corporations that really have our government by the throat. And so I just want to applaud the people of India for doing what you did, because what you did was massive. And ultimately, one thing I would have liked to see, even though I don't know how feasible it is, because it requires a lot of organization, is an indefinite strike until the demands are met. Because if they know when the strike will end, the corporations and people like Modi can hold out until it ends if they know that it has an expiration. The point is really, if you're going to have a strike, the strike needs to happen without an expiration date. The expiration means until the demands are met. Outside of that, the strike continues. And how do we help people when we have a strike? Well, things like that would mean that we would have to depend on one another. We would have to, depend on each other. Now, there is concerns about things like the medical field and things like that, about people who, like, how would they fare? I'm of the opinion that ultimately some things that they'll get the things that they need if there's enough solidarity between people. I gotta be careful with how I say it. You know what I mean? But let's say hypothetically, I work on an oil rig, right? And there's a truck carrying medical supplies that need to get to a hospital. I'd make sure that truck gets some gas to go to the mutual aid area so that the doctors that are also part of the strike help out the people as well. See what I mean? If I'm a farmer and people can't go to the supermarket, well, I'm going to make sure that my crops go to the people who are part of the strike. And then people who are working that strike, well, it's like instead of working at that, that store, go out to that farm and help out so that it becomes its own ecosystem. It's called building dual power, circumventing the capitalist system. There's ways to go about it. You just have to organize and not depend on these corporations or these parasites. But yeah, shout out to India for this one. Shout out to you guys. Y'all did the damn thing, boy. Whoo, boy, I'm telling you. Thanks for that. All right, so let's get comments in the chat. Thank you guys so much. God, I'm starving. I barely got to eat since going to the gym. Because by the time I got home from the gym, it was noon. And then by the time I got out the shower, it was like 12:30. Look, I'm running on fumes right now. I'm running on a little bit of Greek yogurt, some string cheese, and a peach. That's what I'm running on right now. A brother is hungry. So let's get this done. All right, let's go to the Rumble chat just to see if we have any Rumble rants. We're good here right now. Okay. No Rumble rants. I'm going to check on the Rockfin. We're good on Rockfin. We got a few people watching, but we're good on Rockfin. And let's go here. Right here. Right now. Okay. Let's see. Number 6 says, looks like red communists out in the streets. See, when it comes to actually, fighting for workers, it's the commies and the socialists that be out in these streets, which makes you wonder who's really with you. Because, like, for instance, in these United States, I don't see the Democrats truly being out here for worker power, especially when a Democrat is contributing to workers getting less. Just saying. Zoe says millions of Indians are communist. Number 6 says Kerala state in India, communist government since 1957. Wow, really? Interesting. Unemployed scholar says feudalism was strictly European problem. There's a caste and class hierarchy in India, but it's not feudalism. It is a different system. This is from the CIA. Zoya is showing. It says India would seem a fertile field for the communists, yet communism has never been able to attract widespread support. Almost from its inception in the 1920s, the communist movement has been plagued by factionalism, personality clashes, and fragmentation. BS says it's our money. It boggles my mind that the right is so brainwashed into thinking that any benefit from your own tax dollars is somehow a handout. It's true. Let me see. Yeah, Dana says, according to World Socialist website, it was tens of millions of workers. Yeah. A lot of people won't talk about how many workers it is, because if you talked about how many workers it was, then that would raise eyebrows here in the West. Let me see. H. Lukil says, India shows how to deal with Modi, not like quiet folks in the USA with Trump. People are too quiet here. Way too quiet. Trying to make sure I get to people who haven't called on yet. Okay. All right. So Sean says, eat well and rest up. Don't want you collapsing on us. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. I better not. All right. So I'm going to head on out because I need to eat. But today is going to be a good day. Be sure to tune in to Savvy Sabs later this evening. She's going to be having on Shama Sawant. Shama Sawant is running for U.S. Congress. So Savvy will be interviewing her at 5 p.m. So in about 2.5 hours from now. Okay. So make sure to tune into that. That's going to be a really good show. Also, this Tuesday, I will be covering news stories on my channel. I don't think I have a guest. Do I? No, I don't. So yes, I will be covering just news stories, and look, we got to on Tuesday. I'll be talking about Donald Trump, because right now MAGA is in shambles. I was thinking about talking about it today here on this show, but I was like, I'll just save it for Tuesday, because there's probably more that's going to come out. I mean, as far as look, Trump is crashing out right now. I mean, Trump is crashing. We might as well start calling him Orange Crush. I'm going to talk about it on Tuesday, but he is crashing the hell out right now, baby. Anyways, also, of course, if you guys are following me on my channel, I just did the reading of The Will to Change by Bell Hooks on my channel. So I do readings as well, so you guys can take a look at that. And by the way, there will be no Jaybe show next Sunday. I'm going to be going to a mutual aid event and helping out there. So you guys won't see me on RBN for the Jaybe show, not next Sunday, but the Sunday afterwards. You guys will see me back. So and yes, I'll take a look, Roger. Let me see. No one is crashing more than Kirk and Gunther Eagleman. Wait, Kirk and Gunther Eagleman. Who in the world? Kirk and Gunther Eagleman. That name doesn't sound too familiar. Well, it sounds kind of familiar, actually. Okay. Oh, you're talking about Charlie Kirk? Who gives a fuck what Charlie Kirk has to say? Charlie Kirk, he can kick rocks. That face of his, he'll probably scare the rocks away anyway. Anyway, so I'm gonna head out, guys. Thank you so very much for tuning in. I will see you guys a little bit later. It was a great stream, and yeah. So, like I always say, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you got them. Please keep an eye on the story out of the Bronx for Saniyah Cheatham. Please keep your eye out for her and her story. Of course, the family will be having a press conference tomorrow at noon, so be sure to check that out. And look, I'm hoping to see more actions here in the United States, just like what happened in India, because we need more of that. We need some of that energy here. All right, everybody. Look, I love you guys for watching. Mwah, forehead kisses. I will send you guys to have a beautiful Sunday. Go and get some brunch. Go and get some brunch. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.